Yo, Shortbox Nation and Game of Thrones diehards and new listeners joining us for the first time. Welcome to a very special Shortbox podcast episode. This is our Game of Thrones special, actually our last episode in the series. This will also be dubbed our last watch as well. I'm your host, Bader Milligan, and I'm joined by Blythe Brumleaf.
Hello, hello.
Edmund Danzart's here with us on the call too.
Yo.
So yeah, I want to go ahead and thank everyone for joining us, and a really big shout out to all of the listeners that stuck with us this whole season. You know, this is our first time doing a week by week playback every episode, instant reaction. You know, kind of dealing with the emotions at the same time trying to record. So I want to thank everyone for bearing with us and really enjoying it and sending those the remarks and just sharing their experience with us as well. So. This episode will focus on the documentary that aired this week. So we didn't, of course we didn't get an episode, but we did get treated to a really stellar behind-the-scenes look into the life and impact and everything that went into making Game of Thrones. And I'm glad it wasn't just this season they focused on, but, the series as a whole. It was kind of cool to kind of go through some of the walks. But yeah, so we'll go and be talking about this last watch documentary, and we'll treat it like a regular episode too. So we always start out with how are we feeling after watching it. Blythe, how do you feel after watching that?
I think I kind of feel the same as the last episode, just the season or series finale, and you're watching it throughout this entire documentary that the people are sort of in the, I guess, the goings of the show, and then when it finally comes to an end, you're just really sad. and I think it ultimately it helps that there's more material that's coming in, years down the line. It's not going to be something that's going to end, but this particular show with these particular characters, a lot of these characters we've known for close to a decade, and to see them coming to an end, and to see the characters and the actors who are playing them get so emotional, I think that almost helps as like a fan perspective. Like they're just as sad that it's over as you are. Yeah,
if not a little more. I mean,
oh yeah.
The whole time I was, first of all, I think Ed, you and me agree. It was a very long watch. Like the documentary was longer than.
It was like one of the things I was gonna say. And I liked it overall, but it's like, can something be interesting and boring at the same time? And some of those things.
I thought the one guy was a little overkill.
Andrew McClay, I might be jumping ahead, but that might be my series like MVP. That dude lived and breathed being a Stark extra.
If you wanted it to be shorter.
It's like a fan getting to be on the show for a few years. It's
Man,
really cool.
It felt, that's also how I felt too, was like I was watching what I thought. I thought I had a pretty big sense of fandom for the show, but I don't live and breathe it like these guys. Like literally, I think we all know that diehard fan that knows a lot about it. Just from reading the books, living or watching every scene of the movie. But it's a different fandom that this is your livelihood.
And I thought it was very fitting for him at the very end to be able to start giving. Like I don't even know if that was your shtick or not.
Yeah, me too.
To give the Game of Thrones tours.
Oh, he's coming to the convention circuit. Trust me, he's milking this.
As he should. But
entrepreneur. If I ever seen a Stark.
If you wanted it to be shorter, that was a way to cut it shorter. Was to cut a lot of that story out.
Ed, what about you, man? How are you feeling after watching that?
It was good. I like seeing the kind of like the nuts and bolts behind the scenes and seeing just the scale of some of the sets and just getting to see kind of like the blue collar folks that are making everything run smooth. I just really like that perspective, and it's just cool to see that.
Man,
I just wish there was like more. Like the first 15 minutes, there was no real like narration or any like score. Like the kind of score kind of came in towards after that 10-15 minute mark. And it was okay. It seemed very like random at first.
I think you just use a really good phrase, blue collar. And this documentary did a fantastic job of showing like those obscure jobs and different roles that need to be filled that you just don't think about, especially with a show.
Truck. I want a toasty.
Dude.
How do you get that deal where you're traveling around to the different sets, the exclusive food truck?
I'd do that.
You want to talk about some entrepreneurship? There's some killer setups and gigs in this. But I mean, for a show like Game of Thrones, the characters definitely overshadow, just even thinking about some of those minuscule jobs. I mean, you think Game of Thrones, you think Dany, you think, Amelia Clark, Kit Harington, and even the writers in the sense too are also their own kind of sense of fandom and spotlight to them. But
yeah, because you notice a couple of those parts where they're like, oh, Dan and Dave are about to come set.
Yeah.
And it was everybody's anxiously waiting for them. It's almost like they're waiting for the king to arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, when there's like night crypts, it's like, I hope they like it. Like, I don't know.
That lady was making me teary-eyed, man.
Yeah, she was super cute. She was the prop maker. Really,
she was like the special, her husband and her world.
They're the husband and wife.
Yeah, like makeup and special effects. Yeah.
At home.
And that was their first time ever. That was their first season ever working on Game of Thrones. They had like the new whites and
they said it as if they won a contest to do that. Did you catch that? They were like, we figured out, let's see what happens. We submitted our, prepared our portfolio, and boom.
They didn't even have an office to work out of.
That's crazy as shit.
Yeah, they said we had no tables. We had no.
And then the fact that her daughter got to be in it, that was cool too. You could see her really cool. Walking away. She was one of the little wildling extras and that's the very last shot that you see for the series.
Yeah, there are some kick-ass women running this show. Like the executive producer, I'm going to try to find all the names. The executive producer, I think her name was Bernie Caulfield. She was fantastic. The location manager, that hard ass chick. Yeah, park your sausage. Is that what she said?
The cheap sausages.
Yeah.
She
like
had
talking to Ashley.
Jeez, Ashley, watch your mouth. You guys related? And let's see what else I got. We mentioned Andrew McClay. The director David Nutter, and just like
he was awesome,
and his even his assistant got a little bit of a spotlight, and it was cool to like see even the assistants got like a sense of like, this is our day.
I think I'd be a Targaryen, but like a princess. I like dragons.
I loved his process that he prints out everything and that David. He takes he hand draws all of the sets and
he has to use 8.5 by 11 the certain type of paper
and they had to have it like overnighted in or something.
Yeah,
he's like, no, it's not going to work.
Type of typing paper.
What was the name of the woman behind the camera doing the interview? I think her name was Jeannie. There was a lot of scenes that felt like the executive producer or the people who had really busy jobs just were not for her stupid questions. Why not A4 paper? Listen, he likes it this way, all right?
Don't question the method.
Don't question the system.
Yeah, safe. He put all those papers in.
Yeah.
What a strange guy. But, like creatives like that have those idiosyncrasies.
And he put it in a safe every night. Or he said he made a joke about it that the paper is going to disintegrate if it stays out for too long or something.
Like just explode.
I think.
What about Del Reed, the snow guy?
Yeah, there you go. You beat me to it, then. Yeah, that dude was. And it's like, what did he say? One part that I was really fascinated by the very minutia, like just nuances that you're like, what? When he was like, you got to think about like if the camera pans just an inch to the left or right, and you don't got no snow there, or the snow doesn't look convincing, like it throws you out of it. And I was like, man, I guess he did his job really well because I didn't complain about it.
It almost seemed like when they had the scene in Spain, it's like they flew him over there just to like throw a handful of snow on the
That's
set.
all he did.
Sweet gig. I'm telling you, a lot of sweet gigs.
And he also mentioned that he's won an Emmy before, but he had to pay for the Emmy. I didn't know that was a process that you had sort of a side note. I didn't know you had to pay for your own Emmy.
I think I've heard that about other award shows where you don't pay for, you got to pay for.
I wonder how much an Emmy is. I'm about to Google that.
I didn't have to pay for those Gammies.
GAM's a different award show altogether. So that's the one shining beacon about GAM.
I don't want to give Ryan any ideas, though. We're going to have to start paying for this.
Thank God he doesn't watch Game of Thrones. So a standout scene from this documentary for me was, and I liked how they did a really good balance between like showcasing the actors behind the scenes lives, and then but the main focus was about, hey, here's a group of roles and people that play a huge part. But I did like to watch. I really liked the scene where they were in the table read. I guess because I've watched a few table reads, but it was always like you kind of stumble onto them, like, oh, here's a video clip of so and so. But to watch them play it out.
reaction.
Yeah, and I think because Blythe, you mentioned Kit Harington doesn't read he didn't read the script.
No, he hears it live at the table read. He wants to be surprised, and I want to say that he's one of the few on the show that likes to do it that way. They in the beginning of it, they mentioned that all of the actors had gotten their scripts about 3 days before, so it was up to them to either read it or not. And Kit chose not to read it. I guess he never does.
I think our boy just doesn't want to read that shit before he has to.
But his
twisting into this artistic thing.
His real quick, Ed. Speaking about artistic things, please tell me that you agree. All of the Lannisters look like straight Riverside hippies. Like Cersei Lannister. I kept looking at Blythe like, yo, who's that sitting next to damn Emilia Clarke? She's like, that's Cersei, and I'm like, yo, she looks like
your favorite character.
She looks like the teacher from Magic School Bus, right? And I can't get the name down right now.
She's got a full sleeve
That's
too.
Hilarious. She's
a hippie, dude, and I'm like, I wanted to
looks
really
way different outside of the show. It's crazy.
I wanted to watch her read her part because Danny did such a good job just turning it on, and it's like, damn, you're just sitting at the table reading and you're killing
then Varys
it.
too, the actor who plays Varys, like he hears his scene and he before Emilia Clarke is even done, he's putting the script in the middle of the table, like he's upset. That said to me that he was upset.
Yeah.
Emilia Clarke looks like she's probably the most positive, go-getter, like.
Well, it's crazy how much personality time she put in this documentary. I know she's in the wig chair, but I think she had the most camera time as far as just interacting with the makeup department.
And how funny was it to watch like her and a few of the others perform and just like just doing rehearsals in regular clothes?
The Tormund guy too, the Tormund actor. They both, but between Emilia Clarke and Daenerys versus Tormund, they acted those scenes exactly as they did at the table read. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really convinced.
They had the scene with Sam and she just has like a towel on her head.
And a bathrobe.
I'm convinced that the dude who plays Tormund is just Tormund in real life. Like, there's no way to separate him and.
I don't think there is. He'll be typecast into that role for the rest of his life if he chooses to be an actor.
Jorah, the dude who plays Jorah, is so soft spoken. Like he seems like really
very stoic.
Yeah.
Like he commands respect almost. Like he is very like a kingly actor, I think.
You know what else is crazy about watching the table read? It felt like a really enthusiastic Dungeons and Dragons like game. I was like, yo, what? This fucking Dungeon Master is the shit.
Especially when they read the part with Arya and that she kills the Night King. That was cool to see everybody react to it.
Yeah.
That was definitely my standout scene from this documentary. Life, is there any other parts of it that really resonated with you?
I would say that the director, David Nutter, and then his few clips, not few, he actually got a lot of time in this documentary seeing his process. But from like a creative standpoint, I really loved seeing the writing process, that it's not just the script that they're reading at the table read, it's the lines that they're going to speak during the show. It's the set design. It's everything, all the writing pieces.
They have to go through. Yep.
And logistics of it too. I mean, the logistics of a tent off to the side just to be able to hold the extras. I thought just that level of detail that goes into this entire series. And they said during the show, it really pushed them all to the limits. If they didn't know what the limits were, they found them.
Shit, what did
remember that I forgot which producer it was, but the lady.
Yeah, executive producer.
This show can't get bigger. This is. We're all frayed nerves here. This show cannot get any bigger. It has to end.
Well, she also said. She felt that seasons, whatever I think she said 3, 4, 5.
It was like 4, 5, and 6,
like the
7,
biggest seasons were all just training for season 8, and it's like, damn, man, like, and speaking about the special effects department and the makeup department, I mean, she was FaceTiming her, daughter, as if you see these type of scenes and these type of hardships. And you kind of relate that. I always think, military, like deployments, like not seeing your kids, doing whatever you can to touch base home. And it's like, damn, it could happen just as much as, with this fantasy series has people away from their kids and families.
52 days that they were shooting. Yeah. So that's 52 days that you're not able to get a break.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And she was super happy that they were the final day. They ended at 3 p.m. instead of the long, 15, 20-hour days.
Speaking about, just like the logistics. I mean, aside from who the hell orders all this stuff? Where do you store it? But when they were talking about having to shoot in Iceland, and no one thought about like the length of daylight they get, like you know how long the nights are, how cold it is.
Sunset.
It's like, damn, man, like it's really eye opening, and it almost makes like all of the bitching I've heard, like even my own. It's like, man, like
it puts you a new perspective on everything.
Well
it kind
said.
of changes your perspective where you're just not a passive, you know. And it's one of the reasons why it was longer than any of the episodes, I think. But I just like that perspective, and I think this has been like the most positive thing this season has been this documentary as far as feedback and response.
I do wish,
like they're saying this shows more emotion than this last season did.
Oh, when Kit said
rough.
goodbye, his last day
my
on
God.
set, that's when I was like, oh, damn, I got more emotional during that part than I did the entire finale.
I know, right? And I'm sorry to backtrack, but the scene that I liked was the Night King, when he's telling his story, you know, about being a stuntman and a behind-the-scenes guy for so long. And then when they go to that, I forgot where it was, but they go to that dinner, and he's looking at the crowd. There's like a big crowd.
Yeah, in Spain.
People are starting to recognize him, and then he goes out in the crowd and like signs autographs and stuff and takes pictures. I thought that was a really cool, you know, that this guy that's been, you know, a stuntman and a coordinator for like 30 years or something gets to be like, I'm the star now. You know, I get to get a taste of that.
And then kind of related to that is how they did Diversion, how they brought all these different actors down south to the King's Landing or Spain to film there. And the Night King actor was one of them, and that's where he filmed his final scene, which is another one of those things that I didn't really take into effect, that I just assumed that a show was filmed in the order of the story instead of they're just going to film it in the order of the locations that make the most sense. So his last scene is that scene of him falling off Viserion.
Viserion.
Viserion. That's right. But that was his last scene, and I never put two and two together to how they could achieve diversion in one respect, and then also just film his last scene. That's his last scene, even though we see him, you know, for a little bit more than that.
And I agree too, because there was a lot of scenes where, like, Kit Harington's last scene, I think, was when he approaches like Grey Worm and the execution. Danny's scene looked like, or Emilia Clarke's last scene was when Danny and John are riding. It looks like when they were riding dragons together. And it's like, well, these are so like mundane parts to just be your last one. Like, how do you get in the headspace and still deliver?
Exactly.
And you kind of see a hint of it with Sansa Stark, the actress Sophie Turner, who is, and she's like, okay, she's getting the direction from the director David Nutter, and she's like, okay, just give me a few minutes, and she gets emotional putting the pin on Theon, and then after they're done, like, she has an umbrella over her, she's still crying, like, to how long it takes to get you into that mindset versus getting you out of that mindset.
Yeah. With the Danny, what was on Danny's mirror when she left? It was like, "Bye, Danny. Welcome
Bye,
back, Emilia Clarke."
Hello, Amelia.
Damn.
Yeah.
Like, welcome back to life.
Because even her wig person, the person who's responsible for putting the wig on, she was talking about the little things that she gets to get back to life. She's going to paint that fence
and stuff like that. Yeah.
So
I like that she said this is going to be this is the nicest hair that's ever going to be on my head. Talking about the
wig. Some of the most awe-inspiring scenes in this, or getting a glimpse behind the world of Game of Thrones. That King's Landing setup, I think they said it took them 7 months, but holy shit!
One episode. Yeah.
It looked like, just going to Disney as much. I've always wondered, like, man, how cool would it be to be at, downtown Disney or Disneyland, period, by yourself, and just to be able to admire the details. And then here it is here, and it's like, well, check it out. They're able to admire King's Landing. And it just looked so, I didn't know that they didn't shoot it in Dubrovnik, because I've been to Dubrovnik, and it looks just like King's Landing. So for them to recreate it in the back of a studio lot, it's like, what?
Yeah. Just so they could destroy it.
The destruction, like the explosions and stuff. So they couldn't do that.
And they actually, I was reading beforehand about that set, because I was like, there's no way that they're going to put that much time and energy into building that set and not keep it around. So that I guess they are going to keep the set around for tours.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm sure they could definitely think. And I'm sure I definitely wrote this name down wrong, but Was it like the Magmire or the I'm sorry, it's the area where they did the Battle of Blackwater, had the large green screen. It was something like Magmire, Magquire or something like that.
I can see the name in my head.
Yeah,
I
me
can't
too.
pronounce it though.
But that was pretty cool to see too, is how many battles they've shot. And this big ass green screen, and it's like then you get to see the finished product, and you're like, shit, man, like imagine being an extra and just being told random direction. Hey, you guys are gonna run this way. And just like how mundane that is or repetitive, and then you get to see that at the end product and be like, yo, that's what they were making us do?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Like to not even be able to, I'm sure there's moments where you're not able to visualize, like this is what the end product is going to be. This is why they're telling me to stand up and down for 20 minutes at a time. Like it's just
who's it, like the carpet guy and the lady who's going to be closing the windows? Those little parts of like King's Landing where they
to be given that direction too.
Right.
Like they got direction. Hey, you're supposed to just the thieves are coming, pull the carpet in. It's like you got to give props to the director or whoever does that job. Hopefully I'm placing that right, but for them to also think about the attention to detail, like, hey, our extras are also going to interact and be, are acting too. That's pretty wild to think.
Yeah, it was wild to see that sort of level of details. Like, who's giving these people directions? But then I guess you kind of have to.
Yeah. There was, I also wanted, I thought it was pretty cool that when they were following Andrew McClay, that he was kind of like that sense of like brothership or just kind of family, where he was like making fun of the other guy for wearing the Bolton jacket. And it's like, man, that's the type of like work culture that HR dreams about having. So it's kind of cool to see that they naturally made it. I would have been interested to see more on the HR side, like how they go about just keeping
like casting
casting and also just kind of managing that many people, that many employees.
Remember the tents?
Yeah.
The tents of just rows of people getting makeup and fake blood on them and dirt and
I love watching
rows
them in like zombie makeup and stuff and like.
Oh yeah. I wrote that down too. That scene where they were all in like zombie makeup,
it's like break time.
and
They're
just
smoking
eating
cigarettes and eating.
How was that not nightmare fuel? And I mean, the executive producer, the director, I think, I forgot who was, I think it was probably like an assistant director or something, when he was talking about his like anxiety nightmare. And just like watching him leave, as among the last, like, I'm going to go home, sleep for 3 hours, wake up, do it again. It's like, damn, man, like, I'm sure it is a weird conflict of like, I love doing this, but damn, I am done doing this,
Or when does it become like a job? Where the I guess the magic of it wears off, like any new job, where it's exciting at first and then it's okay.
Good question. Yeah.
Here we go.
There's definitely maybe like the horseshit like pilers are probably like, yo, I'm done with this.
Yeah, I don't know if there was any magic ever.
Blythe made a good point. This was so eye opening. And she brought up the that petition that was going around to reshoot all of season 8.
All of season 8.
Oh yeah,
ridiculous. I hope they are ashamed of themselves now.
Yeah, I would definitely feel like a big slap in the face.
Because it's one thing.
Probably more so them than even like the writers.
Unless they're writing a big ass check to do this again,
And it's one thing to write it down and say this is how I would have done it, but seeing all the logistics behind everything they did, no, you couldn't have done it.
Get spicy. Get spicy, Blythe.
and that's like a committee thing too. So it's a lot of times you can kind of see it in this too. You have to write around things that come up, like any fire that comes up. You kind of have to write around things that you can't do, or it's not possible, or it's not in the budget, and that's something to think about too. Because it does seem, because one of the criticisms about the season was how condensed it felt. The last 2 seasons actually. That's now we can kind of see why, because they talk about the budget and they talk about having this schedule, this really tight schedule, and like that when that big snowstorm was going on, that kind of record snowstorm, just like we can't afford to lose a day of shooting,
Yeah.
So everyone's still there, and when everyone's saying to stay home and stuff, so it's crazy.
And wasn't it the lady at the very beginning when she made a comment in regards to that said, oh well, just because you need a direwolf today, people don't see that you need like 120 things that go along with needing a direwolf on set today.
And it almost makes me look at some of the jokey fiascos as far as like the Starbucks cup, the water bottle, and it's like I don't blame the set, other than it's like the actors seem to be the most likely to fuck up like this perfect thing we got going on. Like,
well, they can edit those out now too. I don't know if you guys saw that, but like the Starbucks coffee cup, which wasn't, I guess, a Starbucks coffee cup, it was just a coffee cup, but Starbucks got all the pub for
Smart.
it. No, but they edited it out from HBO Go on the next day.
And, well, what did she say at the end? The fact that any one of the crew members can have this on their resume, like, shows that, oh, this person is a hard worker, they're good under pressure, and they put out good product. It definitely made me appreciate every department. I think even Andrew McClay, the extra, the Stark Guard extra, had even said, I think the extras department is a main actor themselves. If we're not decent, or if we're not on our best job, then we can easily mess it up. And he's got a point. Like, I think because we're not complaining about any of that stuff, I think it's a testament to, well, if we're not thinking about it, then it's got to be pretty well done. Because, I mean, I didn't think about, like, a scene without snow might mess up my viewing experience. And I feel like maybe with it being a fantasy show, you're a little more prone to critique, because it's like, man, a Starbucks cup, come on, and like it takes you out of it. An extra could have easily fucked it up by making like a stupid face or having his like earbuds in or something.
But as a creative, there is nothing worse than seeing a typo, or I remember when I was my last issue with Void magazine, there was a bio of a Jaguars issue. Was I consider it a perfect issue, but there was one part, glaring mistake, that I should have seen. We were on a tight deadline and I didn't see it, and it still haunts me to this day. So I think that those little mess ups haunt creatives for the rest of their lives. Stupid water bottle. They'll probably never buy that water bottle brand ever again.
So let's go ahead and wrap this up by... I still want to treat, because we're treating this episode like one of the regular episodes. We got to wrap it up by doing our MVP of the episode. Ed, who would you consider your MVP for this episode?
Oh man, I really liked the Vladimir Furtick, the stuntman. I really liked his story. I thought that one really. I like this, Dell, the snow guy, was awesome. Yeah. But I think just his story of being in the industry for so long and kind of getting that taste of being like the big star, like hanging out with the fans and stuff. I thought that was really cool. It was a really cool moment. It almost seemed, and I don't know how scripted these things are. You never know now. It's we've become so jaded with like reality TV and stuff. But just him's like, hey, come on, let's go hang out with the crowd. It seemed like a spur of the moment thing,
Especially when he's like, really I wonder if they'll know who I am.
Yeah. Because it's almost like he waved and then he started hearing people cheering, and then he did ask that. He's like, do you know who I am? And everyone's like, Night King. And then, that was cool.
This show is real special to me because it's, especially with like watching this, you kind of get like a peek into the different spectrums of fandom. On one end, you've got Amelia Clark, Kit Harington. And then you can even you have like upper tier, middle tier, lower tier. But I mean, it's like, oh, you were still part of Game of Thrones. It's like, oh, well, shit, you're fucking famous to me, Yeah. So like to see the Night King, someone who plays like such an iconic character, even kind of doubt a little bit, like, I wonder if they know who I am. It's kind of like, damn, that juxtaposition between seeing someone like Kit Harington immedially like, oh, that's Jon Snow, and then
Keith.
Yeah, Keith. Yeah, good.
A little racist. But it's fine.
Blythe, who would your MVP be?
I would say in a similar vein, I would just talk about favorite scene from the entire documentary, and I really liked the whole Arya finding out about the table read, finding out that she is going to kill the Night King, the reaction to that, and then them shooting that, and how it is over and over and over again of her just flying in and different takes and dropping the knife and stabbing him, and then just the little behind the scenes conversations that you had the Night King and Bran just sitting in a tent having a conversation. It was really cool to see the actors switch it on or turn it on and then turn it off, and he had a sort of similar reaction reaction, I think, to a lot of people. Like, Arya's the one that kills me. Like,
Yeah.
So I thought that was
little
cool.
girl killed me. I don't get.
So that was really cool to see.
I think I'm gonna give my award, of course. It shouldn't be a surprise to Andrew McClay, man, because in a way he represents like the hyper version of us, you know, of the folks
It's true.
that tune in every Sunday and then have, you know, very passionate feeling towards it. But he was all positivity, you know. It's I'm sure
Just
that
happy to be here.
Yeah, like and I guess in a way it's like that's how we should.
Totally geeked out talking to
Yeah,
kids.
dude. Like
Yeah.
The last day, I was like, oh,
I would too. Like, come on. Like, I'm sure for him, you know, being able, like, for Kit to say, "This is my favorite jacket, man." It's like,
And Kit offered him money for that
Yeah, that's
jacket
awesome,
too,
man.
which is cool.
Yeah.
And he didn't accept it.
and I liked what David Nutter,
the money, man.
the director said. He was like, you know, it's not about getting you to the and I'm definitely poorly paraphrasing, but it's not about getting you to the end goal. It's about the journey, because that's all that people remember. And when I'm going to look back at Game of Thrones, I'm going to really enjoy the journey. You know, of course, the ending. I have my own, you know, bias, but I don't know. But like this week has just kind of been like, nah, that's the way it should have been. You know, it's like what else? What else could they have done? I really liked, Ed, that you highlighted what she said. It can't get any bigger than this, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess in a way for me, it was also like, finally, like, okay, I'm done. You know, as much as I loved Game of Thrones, it was also just stressful, man. Especially like, and having such a large fan reaction that you're tuning in, even if you're trying to stay away from like social media, it just somehow, negativity and the positivity, it just finds its way into your world. You could, you know, go to work the next day and coworkers are talking about it, you know.
Yeah, this is like probably going to be one of the last shows that I can think of that's what I call like appointment viewing, where you wait, all right, Sunday at 9, like, because since Netflix is just, here you go, do what you want. Here's 13 episodes.
It's what they call the last show that we watched together.
So
it's like, this is, I don't see any other show having this kind of, you know, appointment viewing, you know.
So Andrew McClay gets it, because that's, I think, just the message. When he was like, you know, he was talking to that makeup director, and she was like, you know, your house burning on the first day, and I was surprised that you're here for a makeup test. And he's like, yeah, you know, you just kind of turn off that reality and you kind of just get entertained. And it's like, damn, man, that's
this is the escape.
I really love his spirit. And then to flip it and hustle it with a Game of Thrones tour, like, come on, man, that is the man. So he's
selling those jackets on eBay. He'd probably like grab them.
No, I don't think he would sell any
not
of
Andrew.
it.
Not Andrew. Bought her, though.
I'm selling those.
All right, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time of just kind of looking back at season 8 as a season, and then maybe some finer points as far as the series. Ed, how about you kick us off, man? What do you think about a season 8 as a whole? I mean, between having, you know, a week off, you know, a week of not watching it, kind of just settling in, and then watching the documentary. I mean, how do you feel about the season as a whole? Did it change any, by the way, from your initial, you know, watching it last week to now?
Yeah, I kind of like I still kind of feel, for my tastes, like all the logistical things and, like, you know, the things with the documentary we just watched, is just, I could see them getting to this ending, but it felt like, in a perfect world or an idealistic world, I think this should have been almost like a 2-season burn. You know, it seemed like a really quick, you know, thing. You know, I'm not too, you know, with the death of Daenerys and Bran as the king, I can kind of see, okay, that makes sense. You know, like at the end, that's what happened. But just that from the beginning of the season to the end, it's just like, man, this is so much stuff they're cramming in here. And I kind of understand, especially after watching this documentary, why it kind of had to be this way, the crunch they were in.
Yeah.
But that's my only real criticism, because I thought, like, those first 3 episodes, I was, man, this is great.
Yeah.
You know, and then it just seemed like really crammed those last 3 episodes.
That's a good point, because those first 3 episodes, I was like, man, this is a really slow burn. Well, I think we're going to you know, really get a lot out of it. But then I think after 3, it was like, all right, press fast forward, let's wrap this thing up. And so I'm probably in the same agreement with you, Ed, where it's like, man, I wonder what one more episode, even almost not one more episode, but one more season, even like a short one.
Yeah.
I wonder what that would have done. And let me ask you this: do you think they kept this like documentary, this very heartfelt documentary, on standby? Like, if everyone hates it, bust out.
Smart if they did. I would
Bust
have
out
one
the
of those
pity
after
factor.
every
Yo,
episode.
Keep it on standby, and if they hate it,
Should've took the
drop it
spoilers
on
out
them.
and just put it at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, put a spotlight on
Look how
Andrew
hard we
McClay. Yeah, put a spotlight on Andrew McClay. Put a spotlight on the lovable special effects woman and her child. Yeah, let's really get...
Take the spoilers out. Just, have them Amelia in the makeup chair.
Shit, that's
The
funny.
wig lady.
Blythe, what about you? I mean, has your opinion on season 8 changed with the week break?
No, I mean, largely, I feel the exact same as I did after the finale. Is that I'm always going to want to step more into the Game of Thrones universe and the Game of Thrones world, just because it is a form of entertainment, it's a form of escapism. But of course, I would have wanted to see seasons upon seasons of more shows.
Sure.
But it's just, I don't know. I feel like the only complaint I would have is not seeing I would be interested to go back and rewatch the show, knowing how it's going to end, and see if I can connect the dots a little bit more, because I've seen people starting to do that just even after the last week's finale, that they've gone back and started picking up the parts where Daenerys is making a turn for the crazy, that the signs were kind of always there. I think that Maester Pycelle, the first 2 episodes of the entire series, is saying that we should absolutely kill Daenerys and those 2 Targaryen children, and how different the show would have been if they had gone their way. So I think collectively my mind might change when I rewatch it, knowing how it ends, but I'm never not going to want to step into the universe. And it did feel rushed at times, but knowing everything knowing all the nuances that are involved with the show and with the creative teams, I think it makes sense.
And and I was seeing, and you share a lot of those, and a few other friends would share like videos like that, where it's like, they predicted this back in season 1, episode whatever 1. And prior to watching this documentary, I was like, that could be whatever coincidence. It's kind of a reach. Okay, I get it. We're really kind of digging into these theories. But then watching this, it's like a sense of like, it's pretty fucking planned out how they do everything.
Well, there was one quote that I heard that just makes 100% like total sense to me, and they said that the best stories that are told are not the unexpected ones, but they're the stories that you should have seen coming all along. And I think that was sort of encapsulating of this entire series or season 8.
Ed, looking back between like how I felt about season 8, I think as it's in its entirety, like I said, I'm in the same boat with you, where it's like it felt rushed after like episode 3. I would have loved an additional season or a couple more episodes. And I'm in the same boat where it's like, okay, now that I've had the end, the last episode a chance to like really kind of settle in, I agree, it makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I can see how we need to get to tie all of these stories. Everyone is kind of where they're supposed to be. And I think what I've said is it makes sense, but it wasn't like the most exciting to watch, It was more like, all right, we're wrapping it up. We're telling you how it ends instead of like letting me see it, Well, I mean, just like for the small example, and I think Ed
Where's the
definitely...
Dothraki go?
Yeah, well, and it's like I think last episode, me and you, Ed, were both like yelling for Worm Bowl, Like there was a lot of opportunities to show us, how it happened and kind of like give us exciting TV. But
in the grand scheme of things, that just doesn't make sense with what they were working with.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a logical season. I think it was a logical finish, at least like the way they've broken it down. Was it the most exciting at times? No, not really. It felt,
the Battle at Winterfell was the most like on the edge of my seat entertainment television show that I've ever been a part of.
It was good. It was really, really good. Did it give me the same impact as like Battle of the Bastards? Like not even by a mile. I definitely think like that was like peak. To me, those 2 episodes. I don't forget what season that is, but
season 6, I think.
Yeah, I think you're about right. But like the back-to-back between Battle of the Bastards and the Cersei blowing up the church.
Oh yeah,
that was like peak game. Those 2 episodes back-to-back, just the arrangement, peak Game of Thrones, like best of for me. There's nothing I could top that. But that's just. But for a show to constantly push like what I consider like, man, this is such a great moment of me watching TV. Like, yeah, it's it built things up in my head. Like, it gave me things to look forward to and expect and feel like I was like I needed it. Not needed it, but I was like, it was my right, you know? Like, no, this is my, my right to fucking get the ending I want. It's like, no, not really, you know?
That's why all the people signed that petition.
Yeah. You got to check that petition, see if there's any.
To cross-reference it with your guys' subscribers.
Imagine being whatever, like the executive producer or the director, and being at like Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and two of the motherfuckers signed the petition.
They don't get the invite.
No, they do not. Oh,
no more holiday.
You want to tell me how to do my job? All right, Carl.
Really, Mom? Come on.
I think Blythe had two really good questions for us to kind of look back on it as the series.
Oh, yes. I wanted to know your favorite character that's still alive and your favorite character that died.
So I'll go ahead and lead us off. My favorite, I don't know, this might be a little alteration on that second part, but my favorite death scene, and we're talking Game of Thrones, the series as a whole, is still Dany's brother being killed. Viserys. Like, that is just still one of the most gruesome deaths.
The
like,
golden crown.
To die by gold. I had seen it on a shirt. I think it was like a print or a shirt or something, but it was like this, it might have actually been on a member's jacket. It was like a skull with like molten. It was a tattoo. That's what it was. It was like a skull with molten golden lava, and it's like that form is
that was a tattoo.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. It was pretty epic. Which is like
a bold move.
But that's like tattoo. That's like tattoo material. That's like But that death scene is still. I remember watching that. Like, holy shit, we can put this on TV. Oh my god! And they showed him. Like, he showed the face melting. And my favorite character that's still alive is my boy Jon Snow. I know I kind of complained that he didn't get the epic ending I wanted, but I'm really glad that he didn't have to die again. That he kind of got to go where he wanted. Because really, it's like, what else is there for Jon? He's not meant for to rule.
He's never wanted it.
He got a taste of true freedom. Like, there's no. I can imagine in that position. There's no going back to the laws of the land and kings and queens and worrying about politics. Like, he's been drenched in it, his whole fucking life.
I do wonder, though.
I really like this break. I'm glad he's alive.
But if he fathers some kids, some wildling kids or something, I wonder if they would have a claim to the throne in the future, down the line, maybe.
I'm wondering since
little fan. I like it.
I'm wondering since the Unsullied left Westeros, why they couldn't just wait till the ship to go off the horizon. Like, okay, John, we're good. Sorry, buddy, he's not coming back. You're cool.
All right, Ed, what about you, man? Favorite, death scene or character that's passed away, and then favorite character that's still alive?
Oh, man, I'm going to go with the alive first because there's so many crazy death scenes in this show. I guess I have to go with Arya. I think she's been probably the most consistent character, and kind of, I don't know, we've got to see her physically grow up, just her being, a kid to being an adult at the end of the series, but just all the relationship with the Hound, just her becoming kind of just like this almost scared kid to this, world-class assassin, pirate, whatever she's becoming.
X-rated Dora the Explorer.
Yeah. And just the fact that, you have the smallest character, at the time killing the biggest threat of this, of this world. It's just a cool story. I think as a character, I think she's been the most consistent through the seasons as well.
Yeah. And
this last season. But as far as the favorite character, I might have to go with, I don't know, I like he's such kind of a sleazeball, but Oberyn Martell, the Viper.
How he died? Oh, that's right.
I still can't watch
that death was. I mean, it's just it's
crushing his skull in the moon.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Just his head explodes.
And I think what else adds to it is that, at least for me, when I watched that scene, it was like, damn it, you could have just not done that. This was all you're doing,
He's talking all that shit. And,
yeah.
Playing with the guy.
And it's like, a part of me wanted I was like, yo, finally the fucking mountain's gone.
He's doing all those
giant,
like twirls, those
yeah,
band camp twirls, with the spear, it's like the flag.
He's like a university cheerleader. It's like, all right, man, what are you doing?
He's so outclassed the mountain, and it's just just at the end, that's just how like, oh my god, I was not expecting that,
That's a good one. That's
that to happen.
That's a good throwback. All right, Blythe, what about you?
Okay, favorite death of all time, I would have to say, just because of the impact that it's had on the entire show, it's got to be Ned Stark. That's what catapulted this entire series, really this entire show. It was one of those episodes that I remember watching, and I binged the first season, so I couldn't wait to press play on the very next episode. I couldn't imagine being a fan at the time and having to wait an entire week.
And remember when they were marketing the show, he's like the name on the show. I mean, he's like the established actor.
And then to see it, sort of,
like, oh my god, what's going on? That really threw everyone off because this is the Ned Stark story.
And it was almost in this past season, there were still rumors like, oh, is Ned Stark's headless body going to come back from the grave? Like he's still so pivotal in the entire series, and to see everything that's unfolded because of that death, it was one of those moments where you really hoped it wasn't true, that it was just all a dream, and then.
Or did you hear that thing he warged into some crows or that stupid
thing.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Because that scene...
Did I say that one?
No, you did the Danny and John.
All right, yeah, we got it. We got it. They can listen to the last episode if they want. You know what? And I think that is such a good death to pick, because I think that was the episode I could definitely pinpoint as, okay, I was hooked at this moment. I think by season 1, episode 3... it built the momentum for me to like, okay, I'll stick this out. Mm-hmm. But after Ned Stark's death, for me, it was like, oh shit, you can kill a main character off?
Right. And it was almost like changed television, to be honest.
He's like on all the posters. What's going on?
Favorite death scene, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Cersei blowing up, what is it, the Sept with everybody inside of it, including all the religious and Marjorie Tyrell, R.I.P. So yeah, I would definitely say that one was just an incredible scene to watch her just sip wine as an entire church is on fire.
That was the moment I knew I loved her. Very conflicted.
Ramsay's dying too. That's always satisfying. Wish they showed him chewing his face more.
And then favorite character of all time. This is a character that I absolutely hated the first couple seasons, and then to see them sort of come full circle and experience so many different tragedies, and then to develop into a leadership role. Sansa Stark. It's been a little crazy for me to become such a fan of a character and the actress herself. Sophie Turner. She's somebody that like I started following on all social media accounts. Like I want to find out what role she's going to play in next. I just think that she embodied that character.
Dark Phoenix. That's
yes.
Great.
So I do think that's going to. I don't know why you are laughing. I think it's actually going to be pretty good.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, Bonner is laughing over here as if he's not going to take me to see it.
I thought you were going to say no love for Samuel Tarly?
I mean, I do love him. Everybody knows I love him.
Man. So, Blythe, you actually had some information about the prequels, right? Is there any?
Yeah. It's called Bloodline or Blood Moon, and that's being shot right now, and it's set 5,000 years before the events of Game of Thrones, and so that's
what, a bunch of cavemen? Like,
no, it's the first long night, so that's that in theory that's why they're not going to show. They didn't go that far into the Night King and his backstory and the Children of the Forest. It's because they're going to explore that in the prequel, so there's no need to rehash that story again. And it's a completely different creative team. There's rumors of up to 3 different spin-offs in the works.
Damn.
But the one that's already being shot right now, that's Blood Moon, and the other couple ones I think are just going to be like more short stories, so they're going to have a definitive beginning and a definitive end.
I'm curious to see what new energy will do for the franchise, because I mean we've been with Dave and Dan. Dave and Dan, sorry. Dave and Dan's vision for 8 seasons, approximately 8-9 years.
Yep.
I wonder how jarring. I'm sure it will, at least for me, be jarring to see a different vision, or if they stick to very tight parameters or guidelines. I am curious.
Well,
I wonder if it'll go the route. I'm sorry, of like Star Wars, where different directors had the different spin-offs. And
That's probably the realm it's going to go.
so a lot of
because
bitching from fans
Oh
coming up.
yeah, but they're going to have the opportunity to do what I guess no other sort of fantasy genre or franchise has done. I mean, if you think of Lord of the Rings, you think of Harry Potter, you think of all these, and even Star Wars. All of these franchises have tried to have a successful prequel, and none of them have been able to do it. It's all been sort of rushed, a lot of CGI, lack of storytelling, and a lot of criticism from different fan bases. So we'll see if they're able to do it. But they do have a bunch of like Harry Potter actors that are coming in. I think young Grindelwald and young Dumbledore are both playing in this new Game of Thrones prequel. So we'll see.
If they one of the opening shots of this documentary, I don't know if you guys caught it, but was the dude washing off all the dead body parts, which made me like, damn, I'm going to start paying attention more to those giant panning shots of the.
Why'd they talk to that
bodies.
He was washing these dead bodies.
So they said the show is airs in over 180 different countries. It was really cool to see in that scene with in Spain. One of the fans were holding like a book, and it was like the Spanish version of whatever Game of Thrones title it was. But it was kind of cool to see that. Damn, I wonder how many books are translated. But I really wish they would have talked about how many jobs Game of Thrones has created, and what was the name?
Yeah.
Was it Belfast, Ireland?
Belfast.
Like how many jobs it's created, or how many people it's employed, but also like how many different skills or very unique labors that they've kept alive. Like how many people are well versed in medieval armor making or medieval just markings or drawings or buildings. It's like that's.
I was reading like their wig budget. There was like wigs that were up to like $7,000.
Whoa.
A wig.
Wow.
I'm sure those were Daenerys's wigs.
Probably.
So go ahead.
And there was this cool thing that how much too, especially in this like the CGI era of movie making, like how much practical effects they use. We see the dragons and stuff like that, but just a lot of this is practical. So that was a really cool thing. That
and I said, I even brought up the whole practical thing because if the spin-off series give as much devotion to detail and just practicality,
CGI, bro.
And that's what I'm trying to get at is I don't want the prequels to sell out, to make a quick buck or to, cheapen the experience or make it quick, which I'd understand. It's still a business. They got to make money or et cetera. But I think it would speak a lot to the prequels off the bat.
Life was saying, historically, it's not been a good record.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. But I think it would speak to, just the spirit and the love of the craft if they just off the bat, especially if we find that the prequels are incorporating all of that. If they're employing the same amount of people, doing the practical effects, I think off the bat you'd be like, okay, cool. So they're sticking to that at least.
Because I think it's AT&T that owns HBO now. Because for a while they had this creative vision behind the HBO CEO, and I think it was after the Game of Thrones season finale had aired but got done filming, the CEO of HBO left, and there were a lot of rumors that HBO themselves wanted to throw a bunch of money at Dan and Dave to keep filming and to have more seasons, but Dan and Dave were they were ready to move on to something new. So it'll be interesting to see how much money they still want to throw at Game of Thrones and how often or I guess the frequency because I think that's what Star Wars is sort of dealing with now is almost fan fatigue. So you don't want that to have to set in either with Game of Thrones. But the reality is they have to now compete with the Netflixes of the world, Amazon Prime. You got Lord of the Rings, a new show that's coming out for them. So it's all of these different, I guess, competing franchises that are going to be competing for that subscription money.
And that brings
Disney's going to launch their thing soon.
Yep, Disney Plus.
You need content. They need content.
So Blythe brings up a good point, which leads me to my last question for this episode. What are you guys going to watch now?
Oh, God.
Ed, do you got anything lined up? Or do you have any new shows lined up, whether they're HBO or another service? Or do you have a show that you're like, okay, I can finally get back to this?
I'm waiting for The Boys to drop on Amazon.
Yeah. It looks pretty awesome. I saw the trailer.
Watchmen looks weird. I don't know what they're doing.
Emphasis on weird. Yeah, I agree. Really, it's just on weird.
There's about 30 shows on Netflix. have on a list that I haven't watched yet. So
yeah, and that's what I mean when I say like I'm kind of okay with Game of Thrones ending because it was just such, and especially like this recording this series of episodes, a little behind the scenes. It's like start thinking about Game of Thrones around like Friday, Saturday,
right?
Because the episode's coming out Sunday, so you start kind of recollecting. You start, we were watching the episodes again. Watch way too many fucking YouTube videos all throughout the week. It was like if I was on the computer.
It was like a job.
Yeah, it was. If I was on YouTube, it was probably to watch another recap video, see what I missed, see what I could have done better for the next recording. Sunday comes, the whole day is like that's the big event. Whether I'm waking up at 8 or 10 or whatever it is, it's like okay, I have this many hours before Game of Thrones comes on, this many hours before I have to frantically fight with my computer at midnight trying to upload an episode, and then it's Monday. It's like okay, now it's time to promote the episode. See what I missed, like kind of be a fan. Hop on Twitter, see the memes. I don't think like there's a break until like Wednesday, Thursday, and you're like, okay, I'm not thinking about Game of Thrones no more. It's over. Now it's on to the next shit. Friday comes around, it's like repeat, So for me, it's like a mental like, we got it. I don't have to know. I don't have to hear the negativity. I don't have to be around. What are your theories? Like, that was killing me. I hated answering. What are your theories? I'm not a good guesser. I suck at guessing. Don't ask me to come up with.
Listen to the
guesses.
show. That's where I put my thoughts.
Just like,
why are you asking this guy that?
Yeah. Don't ask me what I think. I don't know, man. I watch, I review, and I facilitate talk. That's it. So to answer what I'm going to watch next, I think Ed, I'm ready to get back into like our meat and potatoes of the show, the comic book stuff. I mean, Swamp Thing's coming out on the DC Universe app. It looks fucking good. We got Watchmen coming out for HBO, and I kind of want to something non-comic book, but HBO has that show Barry. Don't ask me the name of the actors right now, but Barry looks really fascinating. It's about like a story of like
I've heard good things about that.
Like a down on his luck kind of like okay hitman who decides he wants to get out of the life, so he starts taking up acting classes. I think just judging by the trailers, I think I'm kind of there, but I've heard really good things about it. I had seen an interview with the guy who plays Jaime Lannister. And they were asking him like,
Nikolai.
Nikolai, what do you watch? And he brought up like Barry is just really really good. So that's what I'm looking forward to checking out. Blythe, what about you?
I'm taking the complete opposite approach from both of you, and where I almost feel like that I have devoted so much time and energy to this fantasy world. I know more about Game of Thrones history and wars and kings than I do like global history. So I'm looking
I'm back
forward.
And forth, nerd.
So I'm looking forward to more appreciating what goes on in the real world.
Football season's right around the corner, a bunch of pussies.
No, actually, the Chernobyl show on HBO has been really good as of late. And then also, I just have a few books lying around the house that I just want to.
Oh my God!
I want to read. I want to sit on the couch and read a book. I want to, know more about world history and instead of Game of Thrones lore and history, which is nice. I'll revisit it in about a year, but it was definitely one of those weeks where it's like, wow, I can, like the lady said earlier in the documentary, I can paint that fence now. Like it's just a whole new world of opportunities is opening up because of the end of the show.
I will say thank you, Game of Thrones, for the entertainment.
Yeah.
It has been one hell of a fucking
the best
ride.
show that has ever been created, and probably I'll ever see in my lifetime.
Definitely up there.
Yeah,
but I probably have to give it 2. I mean, when Breaking Bad ended, I was like, holy shit, that's what... I remember when Breaking Bad ended, walking outside my little 1-bedroom house, and I was like, wow. like I can go outside, and Game of Thrones gave me the same feeling. So it's definitely, there's no way for me to say it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. Like, the fact that I just got to breathe like the fact that I was wondering like, all right, well, what do I do with my Sunday?
Right.
What do I do with the time? So, all right, folks, that is the end of our episode.
Did you know that club stood for chicken, lettuce, and bacon?
Oh my God! This is why I fucking love Ed. He catches the same things. I'm like, am I stupid for mentioning that? Ed.
I totally didn't know that.
Me neither.
I didn't know that either.
And I had a joke, like, leave it up to a fucking Irishman to, like, teach, like, a club sandwich. Is that an American, like, a all-time, is that, like, an American classic? Is that an American thing?
I think so, yeah.
Chicken, lettuce, under.
I didn't even
bacon.
know that chicken was on a club sandwich. But it makes sense.
Yeah, I just know it had that
love
weird
sandwich.
slice of bread in the middle. I don't know what that was about. Yeah.
I kind of want to watch people see if there's like a compilation of people
Was
flipping
that what
out.
that lady was making? The Wii toaster
No,
or
that's a
whatever?
Toasty.
That was a completely
Toasty, the
different.
Wii Toasty.
I got to see what this tiger bread's all about. Is that like an American?
Yeah, tiger bread. Oh.
Where's that from? I want to see if there's a YouTube compilation of people getting mad about the bacon not being under the chicken. I wonder if that's a thing. Like, return this shit, bacon under.
It's probably something that they complain about Americans. Anytime they come over here and order a club sandwich, it's not the same. Where's the chicken?
Yeah. So, all right, folks, that is the last of our Game of Thrones special episodes. Like I said, once again, thank you guys so much for sticking out the season with us and enjoying the ride with us. If you got anything that you guys want to share, comments, gripes, questions, or even just to have your voice and opinion heard, man, shoot us an email at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com or a DM on any of our social media pages. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at theshortboxjacks. And you can also call our Google Voice number and leave a voicemail, 904-580-4095. Like I said, the Shortbox Jacks all over social media. And if you aren't subscribed to the show, do yourself a favor. Hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes, podcast, any one of your favorite podcast app. Just search Shortbox Jacks. Hit that subscribe button. And if you want more bonus content, we've got about like 10 bonus unreleased episodes on our Patreon, 3 of those being Game of Thrones interviews that we haven't put out. So check us out on patreon.com/theshortbox. Blythe, if you want to plug anything or say goodbyes.
I not necessarily want to plug anything unless you want to follow me on social media at Blythe Brum, but I did want to take a moment and just, sort of thank you guys, obviously the Shortbox hosts and just the fans in general for letting me sort of, fangirl out about a show that I love. I've always wanted to do a live reaction show in whether it's because of the Jaguars or Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is probably safer for me to do, less cursing. But it's always been something that I've wanted to do, and to be able to do it for the final season was really cool. So thank you guys.
Our pleasure. Ed, what about you, man? Any last words?
No, we're good.
All right. Well, look, the Shortbox watch has ended. Thank you guys for listening, and hopefully catch you guys in about a week or so. All right. Check us out on our normal feed. The Shortbox podcast is out.
Yo, what happened to peace? Peace.